Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Peak Blockchain podcast. My name is Garvet, and I will be the host for today's episode. In today's episode, we will talk about the concept of smart contracts. What is a smart contract? How does it function? What are the key areas of concern that are being addressed by smart contracts? Why it is so important? And many such exciting questions that we will try and address in today's episode. And to take us through all of that, today I have Smith with me, who has a substantial amount of knowledge and a great level of understanding of smart contracts precisely because he himself is one of the founders of CoinCrunch India as well as a member of the Delta Blockchain Fund. He also holds a valuable experience of more than 7 years in this industry and has worked on multiple projects in this space. So I'm sure we'll have an interesting conversation in the next half hour. So, Smith, welcome to the Peak Blockchain podcast.
Yeah, hey Garvet, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for joining in today and sparing your valuable time for our audience. Now, let's quickly kickstart our conversation. And
Mhm.
to start off, why don't you talk to our viewers a little bit about yourself, about your experiences, and how did you manage to find yourself in this space of blockchain? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or was it something more gradual?
Mhm. Yeah, so I got started with crypto and Bitcoin by accident. It was in 2013. I wanted to rent a VPS from namecheap.com. And I didn't have a credit or a debit card because I wasn't above 18, so I couldn't have a bank account without my parents' signature, and I didn't want to have the signature on my bank account. So namecheap.com had just started offering servers and domain names with Bitcoin in 2013. So that's how I dabbled into crypto. So I started mining Bitcoin using my computers. I would, talk to my teachers in school and install Bitcoin mining scripts in all the computers of the school and mine a lot of Bitcoin. Did the same thing in college. So that's how I got started with Bitcoin. I primarily made Bitcoins by mining them. Then I was more into penetration testing and bug bounty. I was like a bounty hunter. I would find bugs in companies and then would report them. So I've found bugs in Ghana.com, India Time Shopping, Redbus, and quite few notable companies based in India.
Mhm.
So I was doing that. I was mining Bitcoins until 2015. Then briefly moved to Ethereum. I started trading Ethereum full time for 2 years almost. Or on the side was mining Ethereum as well. So then I realized that the Web3 community, the crypto community is very open. They don't require. I was still in college, and in crypto, people don't require fancy degrees and an MBA to get
Mhm.
started.
Yeah.
So I already had exposure to penetration testing and bug bounty. So I started working with a couple of Indian exchanges. Like I started working with Coin Delta, which used to be a very big crypto exchange. Then I joined Coin DCX, which is India's largest exchange. I was one of
Mhm.
the first employees of Coin DCX back then. So then I co-founded my own crypto news platform, CoinCrunch India. I'm the CTO of that. So then I joined FTX India as a brand, FTX India as an India ambassador.
Mhm.
4 months back, I joined Delta Blockchain Fund on the technical diligence side. So I deep dive into technology, smart contracts, and what all the technology that the companies come to us. We deep dive into it, and I do the diligence on that. So on the side, I advise crypto projects on technology, smart contracts. I've built tech for a lot of Indian crypto exchanges. So that's my brief journey into crypto.
Yeah, I guess that was actually quite interesting to know all these aspects. You have such a vast experience in this particular space. And since you mentioned that you did not get into this space by choice, it was more of an accident kind of a thing. And I guess it is the case for many people in this space because I've met a lot of people who are working in this space. Many, have this idea that they never intended to be a part of this space, but then eventually they found that their interest lies in this space. So I guess that was the similar case with you. And also, one thing that fascinates me about you, at a very young age, you have been able to co-found a company, which is quite fascinating in itself, and CoinCrunch India, and still, and at the same time, rather, you are the member of the Delta Blockchain Fund, again, which is a very popular organization. So why don't you talk to our viewers about these two organizations, and what was the vision behind starting CoinCrunch India, and what are the core functions or some kind of projects that you guys have worked on in the past or currently working on? Just to give our audience a
Yeah,
sneak
yeah,
peek about it. Yeah.
yeah. So CoinCrunch India was founded mainly because back in 2018, the mainstream media like let's say Aaj Tak or Times of India, they weren't covering crypto. Back then, crypto
Hmm.
was just a hoax for everybody, and you needed news companies which would actually bring the right news to the viewers, unbiased, completely verified news to the viewers. So this is why we founded CoinCrunch India, and we broke a couple stories like CoinCrunch India was able to find the identity of a scammer in 2018, which scammed funds from two major exchanges, Coinex and BitBNS. So that was the rationale behind starting up CoinCrunch India. And over the next 3 years, we diversified into a lot of stuff. So we built couple dApps as well. Like we built Scatter Me, which is
Hmm.
a dApp which lets you send tokens to you know a lot of addresses in one single transaction. So generally, if you want to send tokens to, let's say, 100 addresses, you need to make 100 transactions. So using this dApp for free, you can send to 100 addresses in just one single transaction at click of a button. So this is what we build. And we build smart contracts for a lot of ICOs, a lot of projects. And we did we tested out, covered a lot of products for major crypto Indian exchanges as well. We had podcasts on YouTube and a lot more stuff. And
Hmm.
in Delta, we recently invested into Wormhole, which is a very big cross chain bridge. And we generally invest into very good at tech heavy projects in the crypto.
Oh wow, that was quite an introduction about your organization, and it was quite interesting to know all these aspects about your organization, and a lovely way to start off our conversation today. So now, Smith, I'll take a step back and come to the topic of smart contracts. What exactly is a smart contract, and how does it function? What is the problem statement? Like why it is required in today's day and age? So just take us through the whole concept of smart contracts.
Yes. So before understanding smart contracts, let's first talk about dumb contracts. So what are dumb contracts? Dumb contracts are anything that's written down on a paper and which has to be executed offline. So let's say if you have a contract with somebody that I am going to pay you $100,000 for this piece of land. You have written it down on paper, and that's a dumb contract. So after you pay off $100,000 to this guy will transfer their land ownership to you, right? That's how it works. But what if the guy does not transfer you the land, right?
Hmm.
So in that case, you have to file a court case, go via legal authorities, and all that sort of stuff. So what are smart contracts? So smart contracts uh, are it's a set of instructions which get executed in a fill or kill manner. So let's say your money on the blockchain is represented as $100,000. So you have stable coins like USDC or USDT. Let's say I have $100,000 of USDC. Now the ownership of the land is represented on the blockchain by the means of an NFT or in
Hmm.
some other sort of. So you can construct a smart contract in such a way that once my $100,000 is transferred within the same transaction, the ownership of the land is transferred to me. If
Hmm.
something goes wrong, I receive my money back and the ownership of the land goes back to the actual owner. So it is a fill or kill method.
Hmm.
Either everything goes right or everything reverts as if nothing ever happened, right?
Yeah.
So in smart contracts, it is like once the code is written, it will execute in that particular manner. You don't need third parties like a court or somebody to enforce that order.
Hmm.
It will execute the way it is written. And you cannot change the code of smart contracts. So there's a guarantee that okay, if a set of instructions are written in the smart contract, they will execute the way it has to be executed.
Okay. So just to put things in perspective, it is nothing but pieces of code which you can call the programs, which you can use to set an algorithm, which would be required to enter the predefined conditions or parameters which are needed to be met in order to execute the contract. Am I right?
Right, right. So let's if in the Web two world, if you take an example, if you withdraw 100 rupees from an ATM,
Mhm.
the ATM has a program written inside it which will give you out 100 rupees only and only if the money exists in your bank
Mhm.
account.
Yeah.
But the code and the ATMs are owned by the bank. So in
Mhm.
future they can always change the rules. They can always change the parameters that okay, if this account has 1,000 rupees, then only let them withdraw 100 rupees, and they can also confiscate your balance. With smart contracts, the thing is that everything is open. Once it is deployed, it cannot be changed. So they are basically an upgraded version of the normal programs that we
Mhm.
see in the Web2 world.
Hmm. Interesting times. And also, another aspect that I wanted to cover when we talk about smart contracts and when we compare smart contracts with the conventional contracts, what kind of cost is saved by using smart contracts? Because I'm sure there will be many organizations who would want to invest in smart contracts, but then at the same time, they would want, some kind of return. So, what kind of cost is saved, or what kind of return, the organizations are getting by implementing smart contracts?
Yeah. So it completely depends on how the implementation is done and what your business needs are. So I am
Hmm.
seeing a lot and lot of governments are exploring representing land parcels, houses, asset ownership on the blockchain. Now, if you do that in the Web2 world, earlier before computers, everything was stored into files.
Hmm.
Everything, you had a huge pile of paperwork lying down in offices. That's how it worked. And with the advent of computerization, government started putting up everything into computers, into databases.
Hmm.
But here still you need databases, you need servers to store everything. With smart contracts, the thing is you do not need to manage the infrastructure. Blockchain is the infrastructure. You do not need to manage it. Everything gets stored there. You pay a certain amount of gas fees for every transaction, but
Hmm.
that's it. So it matters. So there's no one size that fits all, or anything like okay, if an XYZ company is saving cost by getting it on a blockchain, it's not necessary that some other company would also do that. So
Hmm.
it's like that.
All right. So when we talk about organizations, we also think about the industry sectors which are more relevant for smart contracts. Because with blockchain, we saw that initially, the financial sector was more apt, was more relevant for the implementation of blockchain. But is it the same case with smart contracts, or are there any industries that are, as much relevant as the financial sector is?
Yeah, so finance has been the flag bearer of getting into the smart contracts and
Yeah.
blockchain. So same with the same, I feel that real estate would also start getting into smart contracts. They'll start representing actual land ownerships, house ownerships on the blockchain using NFTs. And there are a lot of pilot projects. I have personally worked with one of the pilot projects wherein so if in the US houses are too costly, let's say an investment house costs like in a posh area it would cost like a $10 million. Not everybody could afford
Hmm.
them. So right now there are certain companies like REIT which break down house ownership into equity and give it to you. But there's a
Hmm.
lot and lot of paperwork involved in it. So with blockchains and smart contract, you can create fractional NFTs and give it out to them. But again, for these fractional NFTs to exist and to be valid, government has to recognize them as actual asset representation, right?
Hmm.
So that's the thing. So I think apart from finance, supply chain logistics could also come into play. With supply chain, I heard about a really interesting company wherein if you bought a bottle of beer from them, you could scan that at what point, where was this beer bottle packaged, how it came to this country, when it came to this country, and all that sort of stuff. So I think supply chain logistics, finance, and real estate would, get into this pretty soon, into smart contracts really very soon, and other industries would follow as well.
Mhm. And like I wanted to know like whether the insurance sector is also more relevant because of the insurance claims and everything, because that also require a lot of paperwork and many
Yes,
conditions
yes, yes.
that are needed to be met. Yeah. So is it
Yeah.
something that can also see a rapid adoption of smart
Yeah.
contracts?
So there's this company called Etherisk. I have been working with them for a few years now. So they are actually live in some African countries. Uh, the insurance is a very tricky sector. Like if it's a life insurance, it's very hard to identify if the person is actually dead and put that on the blockchain. But certain sectors like Etherisk provides farm insurance. So let's say in South African countries, they whenever if you opt for farm insurance via them, so they will represent your the actual place where your land is on the blockchain, and let's say they will keep on querying the weather data via oracles.
Hmm.
So in case if in a particular quarter or a particular year there is too much rain or there is actually no rain, in that case it's a sure short method to identify that okay, we need to give out claim to this. So in that case the smart contracts would actually on its own, without any human intervention,
Hmm.
just pay out all the claims without even claiming. People don't even have to claim that okay, my crops were destroyed or there was no rain this year. It would automatically pay out insurance to all these farmers. But in certain cases wherein there's maybe a moderate rainfall but there was flood in certain parts of the country, for that they have some human intervention, but they are planning to phase it out soon, so to have everything on the blockchain, so everything is public and everything is visible. But certain parts of insurance like life insurance, vehicle insurance, all of these could not be represented on the blockchain in a very very nice manner. So
Hmm.
where automation can be done, let's say crop insurance, weather insurance, in that case blockchain is already catching up.
Mhm. Yeah, and the self-executing and the automation of these contracts is one of the USP of smart contracts, right? So we'll delve into all the benefits and maybe some demerits as well. So we'll delve into all the pros and cons later. But before that, I personally wanted to ask you one question around the economic implications of smart contracts. Because I have read, there are many predictions that say that blockchain technology would impact the global GDP by 1.76 US dollars by the end of 2030. Right. So, what kind of economic impact we can expect from smart contracts on the global GDP? So, just take us through the whole macroeconomic environment around smart contracts.
Yeah, so smart contracts, are actually very tied to crypto. And as you see, crypto industry is actually very booming compared to where it was 5 to 6 years earlier. So contribution of crypto to the economy is already increasing. You see a lot of crypto companies hiring. A lot of crypto companies like Coinbase have already done billions, is already worth billions of dollars, and it's already listed on the stock market. So with smart contracts, the industry, it's very nascent to say how the smart contracts would affect the GDP, because even the crypto ecosystem, smart contracts, and everything is evolving. You
Hmm.
see, there are new blockchains coming up. Things are like earlier. Primarily, everybody would build smart contracts only on Ethereum with Solidity. Now you see
Yeah.
new and new chains coming up. Like you have Solana, you have
Solana, yeah.
Near. Now there's Aptos and Sui coming up. So
Hmm.
it's very early to comment on how would be the impact of smart contracts on GDP, but I think it would be considerable, given that crypto is already booming.
Hmm. All right. So when you mentioned about the crypto and there are many exchanges at present and many blockchain platforms as well. So when we think about crypto, the main aspect of crypto exchanges are the wallets, right? So what kind of a role does smart contract play for these crypto wallets? Like how are things shaping up in this particular segment?
So wallets, there are already many crypto wallets out there. Like you have MetaMask, you have Trust
MetaMask.
wallets. So the infrastructure required to keep these wallets running is too huge. So this
Mhm.
is why big names like Consensus, who owns MetaMask, Binance, which owns Trust Wallet. So there, these big companies have wallets. And if in the hardware wallet space, if you see Ledger and Trezor are pretty much very famous. There are other competitors. There are new wallets coming up, but Ledger and Trezor have captured the market share. So
Mhm.
that's the thing about wallets.
All right. And if we talk about the financial sector, DeFi in specific, the decentralized financial sector. So, how is smart contract evolving in that sector, and what is the the rate of adoption, or how are things looking for the DeFi sector with respect to smart contracts?
Yes. So smart contract. If you look at DeFi, DeFi started booming after the end of 2020.
Hmm.
So even in the last 1.5 years, DeFi has gotten a lot of traction, and I have been personally hearing about a few banks that are exploring getting into DeFi, like underwriting loans in DeFi. Let's say giving out loans based on your crypto as a collateral, or
Hmm.
banks particularly participating into DeFi or lending pools. So the problem with traditional finance getting into DeFi is regulations and legal
Hmm.
jurisdictions and all that sort, because DeFi does not lie around one jurisdiction. It is global. Smart contracts are global. So
Hmm.
this is why centralized banking entities are getting into it with caution, but over the next coming years, I'm sure they will figure out a legal framework to easily interact with DeFi.
Hmm. Interesting. And since you mentioned about the nascent stage of blockchain technology itself, and then DeFi coming up in around 2020, so we know that this industry in itself is still growing, and it is still young. So I just wanted to understand the pros and cons of smart contracts, because we know that smart contract is self-executing, so it might save some time as well, and then there is less paperwork, increase in transparency. So what about the demerits of smart contracts? I'm sure there are always two sides to a coin, so what is the other side?
Yeah. So one major demerit that I could think of is that on the blockchains, all the data is public.
Hmm.
You cannot have private data on public blockchains. Like if you look at Ethereum, if you look at Solana, if you look at Near, these are all public blockchains. So any data you put here or on the smart contracts deployed on their chains, anybody can read all the data.
Hmm.
It's not like you can hide the data. So right now, banks cannot use these public blockchains to store their data. The reason being, all the customer balances would be put up on blockchain. Everything would go up in the blockchain. So
Hmm.
they are looking at implementing private blockchains, which are then secured by the public blockchains. Like let's say, so Maharashtra government recently started putting up COVID test reports on the Polygon chain, but they did
Okay.
not put it directly on the Polygon chain. They started putting it up into a private blockchain, and then at an epoch checkpoint, they started posting hashes on a public blockchain. So in that way,
Hmm.
your private blockchain is somewhat dependent on the public blockchain for security, but the data is not exposed to the world. So
Hmm.
in a similar fashion, this is one of the cons with smart contracts. The second is it's slower, because once you do a transaction, it has to be validated or it has to be
Hmm.
mined by the miners. So depending from blockchain to blockchain, like Ethereum has a 15-second block time, Matic has a 2-second block time, BSC has a 2-second block time. So speed is also somewhat of a con,
Hmm.
but there are new and new chains coming up. Like Solana is way faster than all the other chains. Aptos, which is which is about to launch next year, is also touted to be a very fast blockchain. So I'm sure in the coming years there would be a lot of evolution on the tech side, and all these cons would be figured out as well.
All right. So, like, what do you think about the regulatory aspect? Since there is no central authority in blockchain, so is there any regulation, or is there any regulatory body that's gonna come up in the future, and that's gonna design the whole infrastructure? Just your
Right.
thoughts on that.
So a lot of governments are already looking at hiring subject matter experts to understand how the blockchain works and what can be done, what cannot be done. Like in blockchain, with traditional banking system, you can block somebody's, freeze somebody's account, and they wouldn't be able to withdraw the funds. With blockchains, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot do that. You cannot block somebody's address, right?
Mm-hmm.
So crypto is very different from traditional finance, and this is why governments are already looking at it. If you look at Dubai, I think Dubai has set up an authority to monitor all of this. I think Korea has also done something similar. With the US, SEC has already been looking into all that sort of. They aren't regulating, but they are actively phasing out scams from crypto. They
Mm-hmm.
are trying to keep the industry clean and clutter free. So
Mm-hmm.
that's I personally feel that a lot of countries would be coming up with their own regulatory authorities, like India has SEBI, US has SEC. So in the same manner, I think a lot of countries would be coming up with some association to monitor how the evolution of blockchain in their
Mm-hmm.
jurisdictions.
Yeah, and that was extremely well put because I myself was also, looking into the regulatory aspect of blockchain because, there are, as the adoption and implementation of smart contracts and blockchain as a whole increases, there would be a requirement of a regulatory body as well. So, my question to you is, what do you expect? Like 3 years or maybe 5 years down the line, what kind of possible trends or what kind of developments do you expect in this particular domain?
Yeah, so like being an investor, I could see that there are already very good projects that are building a lot of stuff, that are bridging. Like until now, if you see, everything was, sort of involved into the Web3 ecosystem itself. Like projects were involved with each other. There was no linking of real world assets, or let's say offline world with the online world. But a lot of projects are coming up which are linking up offline world with online world. Like if you see, Starbucks recently announced a partnership with Polygon a few days back. So they would be starting a loyalty program on chain. So in a similar fashion, few years down the line, I see a lot more companies, big names, being connected to blockchains and representing some or the other stuff on the blockchain. And we'll see how it goes forward from there. But I feel personally feel that in the next 3 to 4 years, all the Fortune 500 companies will start embracing blockchain in some or the other way.
Hmm. Yeah, and since you mentioned about the increase in adoption as well in the time to come, and we'll see many more players coming into this segment. So, I personally just wanted to ask you this last question: that why are many crypto companies or NFT projects getting delisted nowadays? We heard about the Luna crash and then the Tornado cash ban. So why are things like these news like these coming up every now and then? That would also make some people skeptical about the whole concept of blockchain, isn't it?
Yeah, so with Luna, it was an algorithmic stable coin, and mistakes tend to happen everywhere. Like
Hmm.
there was some problem with the economics of the project, and hence it led to the depeg of USD. USD was supposed to always be equal to $1, but due to some macroeconomic problems within the protocol itself, as it was an algorithmic stable coin, certain problems occurred and it went to zero. So
Hmm.
this was very it was really a black day for crypto in general, because a lot of people lost a lot of money on that. But things like that also happen in the web 2 world. Like today morning, Uber's servers got compromised. Like all the data of Uber servers was compromised. So the guy who compromised it was able to see exact amount of revenue that Uber did in what regions. And it is touted at some sort of social engineering attack. But things like this also happen in the web 2 world. So no industry is prone to mishaps. So
Hmm.
in the same way, it happens with crypto as well. With Tornado Cash, the thing is, Tornado Cash is based on zero knowledge proofs. It is so zero knowledge proof in itself is a really nice technology. It's a really nice way
Hmm.
to scale blockchains, to do a lot of stuff. It's basically mathematics. Zero knowledge proofs is basically mathematics, but it depends on how you use it. So Tornado Cash implemented zero knowledge proofs in a way wherein you could deposit certain amount into it and withdraw certain amount into it, and there would be no trace. As I told, all the data on blockchains is public, but
Hmm.
with zero knowledge proofs, Tornado Cash built this thing. The thing was that it a lot of people want privacy. They don't want others to trace them on the blockchain to see where they are moving funds. So for them
Hmm.
this is a really nice tool, but the every coin has two sides. So a
Yeah.
lot of criminals started using Tornado Cash to obscure their source of income, the mode of payment, to hide from where actually the funds are coming in. So this is what caught the eyeballs of the government, and they realized that the cons actually outweigh the pros.
Hmm.
This is what they thought. I don't. I feel otherwise. So in a similar fashion, things mishaps can happen in any industry.
Okay, so you won't agree with the, experts saying that the pros of blockchain technology would outweigh the cons of it in the time to come.
No, I agree with that. That pros would obviously outweigh the cons. In case of Tornado Cash,
Mhm.
the government feels that the cons actually outweigh the pros,
Oh, okay.
and this is not something that I agree with, because I feel that on blockchain all the data is public. I feel
Hmm.
that there should be some way to have certain privacy to obscure your transactions, but again it is then being used by criminals to hide
Hmm.
their traces. So
Hmm.
that's a bad thing. So it is sort of a gray area. People could have differentiating views on that.
Mhm. Yeah, and great to see you being optimistic about the blockchain and everything, because we need a lot of people to see the positive side more rather than the negative side, because the industry is evolving in itself, and it'll take time to adjust and for the people to get habitual to everything and make infrastructure. So just on this note, what are your concluding thoughts, or are there any words of wisdom that you would want to share with our audience?
Yeah. So what I would like to say, that if anybody is venturing out into getting into crypto, blockchain, smart contract, I would actually advise to just not only look at the prices but also look at the tech. Like right now, I've seen that usually that whenever the market goes up, a lot of people start getting into crypto. They think of making a career in crypto, but once the market starts falling down, they start exiting crypto. I
Hmm.
would recommend that do not look at it just from a price point of view. Look at it from a tech point of view. Try to, because the technology that goes into building blockchains, like zero knowledge proofs, zk rollups, optimism, uh, optimistic rollups, and all that, the technology is really nice. So if you're getting into it as a developer or for building smart contracts, learn the technology, see the ethos of decentralization, and uh, then take an educated guess rather than just falling for prices. If you are getting into crypto as a trader or looking at it from an investment side, I would recommend that you not only look at pricing, but also do your due diligence. What a project does, how it
Hmm.
does, why it does, what problems is it solving, is there a real world use case, or are they just building it for fun? So there are a lot of meme coins as well which don't do anything,
Hmm.
they're just building it for
Right.
fun. So look at all these aspects and then invest, and only invest money that you can afford to lose, no matter
Mhm.
if it's crypto or stocks. Do not put all the eggs in same basket. Diversify your portfolio. So don't put all the funds into, let's say, one single coin. Diversify it, take an educated guess, and then invest into the projects.
Yeah, and you have summarized everything that we discussed today in a very easy to understand manner and with so much clarity. So I guess it was an interesting and a very insightful session today we had with you. And again, I would like to thank you for joining in today and sharing your valuable thoughts for our audience. So again, thank you so much for joining in, and I hope we have more such podcasts on various other topics in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to have another podcast soon.
Yeah, definitely. Same here.